there's two, otherwise I was going to be up there. Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mountain View. Welcome to those of you joining us online on our live stream. My name's Lindsay Corkle and I'm the events manager here at Mountain View. And I'd just like to welcome you all here tonight for Let's Talk Rubbish with Clara Isaac from Recycle Collect. Before we get going, I just need to run through a few housekeeping points for us this evening. So if anybody in this evening's using a hearing aid, then please turn it to the T position so it links in with our hearing loop. If you've got any devices with you tonight, please either switch them off or make sure that they're on silent. And then finally, we don't have any fire alarm practices planned for this evening. So if the alarm does sound, then please make your way to your nearest exit. There's one at each end of the building here, and if necessary, there's one down through the middle of the canteen through the studio there. Okay, now the instructions are out the way, let's get on with our evening. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with Mountain View, we're incredibly passionate about the environment, as well as pioneering solar power on the island with our huge solar array and battery storage system, for which we actually won a UNESCO Biosphere Award in 2019. We've also done a lot of other initiatives, so we've planted 4,000 trees, installed environmentally friendly sewage and hot water systems, invested in high-grade insulation, and installed LED lighting controlled by motion sensors. We also provide all of our staff and site users with reusable water bottles to try and reduce the amount of single-use plastic. And we have recycling units installed throughout the site to make putting the waste and sorting it easier for recycling later. So, as well as being very environmentally active ourselves, we're also extremely enthusiastic about encouraging and supporting others to consider how they might enjoy a more sustainable lifestyle. Our speaker tonight, Clara Isaac, has real skin in the game. After carving out a successful career in finance, inspired by wanting to make a difference in the world, Clara went on a mission to improve recycling rates across the Isle of Man. Along with her husband, Andrew, they created Recycle Collect, which is a local kerbside recycling service with an innovative modern twist. We're therefore absolutely delighted tonight to welcome Clara as she comes to present on that topic. So there will be some time for some questions and answers at the end. So if you have any questions throughout, just bank them and we'll get to you at the end. For those of you who are joining us online, feel free to pop any questions into the chat and we'll endeavour to get through as many of them as we can as possible. But I know you didn't all come to listen to me. So if you could put your hands together and welcome to the stage the wonderful Clara Isaac.
Okay. Lovely. Can everybody hear me? That's not very often I have to ask that because normally I'm so loud that people can hear me from anywhere. So hi everyone, really nice to meet you. As Lindsay had said, my name is Clara Isaac and I'm super happy to see so many familiar faces here and also some new ones as well. Just a little introduction to me then, so you can get to know each other a little bit better. As Lindsay had mentioned, I've spent the past 13 years working in the accounts, finance and audit industry. It's where I met my awesome husband, so it was really cool. It's been a fantastic 13 years. Manx born and raised, trained here, studied here. I went straight into the finance industry, and it's been absolutely incredible. Together we own a software company as well. But believe it or not, it sounds incredibly dull. People must think, oh, they're both in the finance industry, they're accountants, that sounds like a really fun household. But actually, it's led us to where we are today, where I am here today, standing in front of you guys, I guess in my capacity as a bin woman. So a little bit about our journey. So during the pandemic and the lockdown, my husband and I would kind of wind down by essentially winding ourselves back up about climate change, the environment, sustainability. And I'm not going to lie to you, like for me, I felt completely helpless. I was like, what am I doing? What can I do to make a difference? Is there anything we can kind of do to make things and make change here on the Isle of Man? So I was very, very lucky to be part of the ESG committee at Conister Bank. And I thought, this is my calling. This is exactly how I am going to help make a difference to the world. We went on the very first meeting, so welcome back into the office. First meeting was about recycling, and it was literally then I was inspired. I was like, what, the whole of Douglas get a kerbside recycling, and the rest of the Isle of Man don't? I was like, someone needs to do something about this. And so I'd gone home and said to Andy, my husband's a super talent. I'd gone to him and said, this is what I want to do. And I trust that when I throw something at him, there is always something that we can do together. And I thought, this is it. I've got a plan. Let's go for it. So we did. This was 18 months ago now. We have very successfully launched Recycle Collect, which has been absolutely such a whirlwind. It's brought some amazing times. It's also been very difficult, but we are super excited to be here today with 6 amazing staff. We're up to 3 vehicles, and we're actually collecting from April just over 1,500 houses each fortnight, which is beyond our wildest dreams, but I'm ready to go harder and further. So less about me, more about Recycle Collect. So Recycle Collect is what I describe as a for people and planet enterprise. We are super passionate about the environment, and I have some incredible people working with and for me to just get out there, spread the message, what recycling is and what it's all about. So at Recycle Collect, we try to get really active in the community. I want to meet everyone. I want to see everyone. I want to get in schools. I want to get to community groups. I'm in corporates all the time, giving presentations about recycling and about general sustainability. And it's just having that kind of push where people are like, someone's out talking about it now. And it's getting people engaged. And so Recycle Collect, if you haven't seen, we're currently all ladies working at Recycle Collect. It's not on purpose. It just seems to have happened that way. But if you do see the ladies out and about in the vans, they're out. There's always a good song on. I say good, they've got terrible taste in music. But always a song, and always cheery, always really friendly and able to approach. Just getting out in the community is exactly what we're here to do. So we're collecting at the moment for people's households your plastic, cans, paper, glass and cardboard, and we are super excited to be working with Isle of Man Creameries to be the first doorstop collection on the Isle of Man for cartons and Tetra Pak. So I don't want to teach people how to suck eggs, but if we just strip things like right the way back, why are we recycling? Why do people promote recycling? And the main reason is that recycling preserves our world's natural resource. So if we already have, all these materials in existence and we can turn them into things that we need again, then it, for me, just makes so much sense. For example, extracting oil out of our seas for the benefit of making, raw plastic. We've already got plastic already in existence. Why aren't we using that to recycle it into, new products? Same with paper. If we keep taking down trees over and over again, when the recyclability of paper is fantastic and it gets done and it's been kind of perfected over the years, along with your likes of aluminium, which we think, well, where does aluminium come from? When I get a can, where does the aluminium come from? It's extracted through a mining process, which is devastating to the environment. When actually, if you recycled that can can infinitely be recycled for the rest of its life. So taking it all back to why do we recycle? It's to preserve what we have. Our Earth's resources are finite, and we cannot continue to keep taking more and more and more without giving a little bit back. So what's the benefits of this then? In terms of energy savings, which tends to be where people like to go when it comes to materials, as I'd mentioned with cans and aluminium, if you compare this from recycling in comparison to extracting from raw sources, recycling a can save you 95% of the energy it would require to extract from the Earth's natural resource. Oh my God, who goes past, a petrol station or a bin and they see cans in there? I'm like this secretly, I want to just get it out and be like, oh, put my hand in that bin. It's absolutely crazy that we are popping our cans anywhere other than in our recycling. They can be recycled over and over and over again for a massive saving in energy. With plastic bottles, if you were to recycle one plastic bottle, it takes 75% less energy in comparison to using raw materials. Steel, 70%, and paper, 40%. The benefits are there, and I don't know about you, but for me, all I need to do is look at this and think, I'm sold, that's it. I understand the ethical implications, I understand the energy savings here. Sign me up. I will recycle anything and everything I can if it has a benefit like this. But I appreciate with everyone, it's kind of on different scales. And for some people, it's like, okay, well, what's the cost of this? And as we all appreciate on the Isle of Man, our processes can be a little bit difficult because we live on a smaller island in comparison to like the UK and other places in Europe. But if we bring this right back to a cost scenario, so our alternative to recycling at the moment is popping it in our general waste, 2 items of which they cause a significant drain on the energy from waste plant and affecting your electricity generations. That's any metals and also glass. And then you think, right, when I pop it in my general waste, that then charges my local authority £104 per tonne per year. And now on average on the Isle of Man, people or per household were putting 1 tonne of waste each in our general waste. So that's costing you £104 per year. Oh wait, on top of that, you also then have to pay for your collection. So someone has to pick that up to dispose it. Disposal charge of £104 a year, and then a collection charge, and that can look anywhere 60, 80, 90, depending on where you live per year. So you're looking in comparison to recycling with Recycle Collect, £103 a year we're charging. You don't pay any disposal. Your recycling is your collection only, and in comparison to your general waste. So there's a significant economic difference here in terms of the Isle of Man in general, your local authority in general. What it will do for them is by saving you money, essentially through your rates, if you don't put all that waste in your general waste, saves them on the disposal fee. And what it can do for recycling and on the island as a whole is actually there's an amazing market for recyclable materials, and it is so well thought out, and it's been practiced for years and years and years now. There's a market out there. There's a market for these materials like commodities. That's aluminium. Aluminium ranges from between 900 to over £1,000 a tonne. Clear plastic bottles, about £800 or something it was quite recently. It's crazy. There is a market out there. And if you think if you can sell these items to close locations just off the Isle of Man to generate a return, surely that is so much better than paying for it to be disposed of through the energy from waste plant. So aside from kind of the benefits of economic kind of factors, for me, a big selling point about recycle, and probably one I didn't really appreciate quite so much until I got into it and started kind of going out and meeting people, was that like curbside recycling is just, it's available for everyone, it's so convenient, and we fail to take into consideration with our current island model what people do if they have disabilities, if they are not able-bodied, or if they are elderly. There are people out there who cannot get to a bring bank, who cannot reach into a bring bank, or first of all, who can't drive. So curbside is more bringing it to the household so we can all get involved. And one of my favourite people to ever get involved is my goddaughter, Harriet. And she is absolutely fantastic. She's 5 years old. And this is what Harriet says.
This one goes in the cardboard. Yeah. This one goes in the plastic. Oh, well done.
Like, she's so excited by it. And it's the kind of general response I'm getting from schools at the moment. As these kids are so involved, they want to get involved. They know all about it already. And they're so enthusiastic about it. So for me, it's bringing kind of that sustainability into our households, because we don't know where our kids are going to end up. I don't know where she's going to end up, but I know it's going to be somewhere so awesome. And I want her to bring those best sustainability practices to wherever she may end up. And I hope it's a world leader. And I want her to bring those fantastic practices with her wherever she goes. So how does Recycle Collect work? So when we set up Recycle Collect, my husband being the tech whiz that he was, I was like, what can we do to make it easy, it's efficient, it's streamlined, so that we can get more people on board and so that we can kind of revolutionize the way that waste management works. And so we set up a website called recyclecollect.im. And through there, people can sign up, they pop their name, their address, and initially when we went out, we didn't quite expect the reaction that we got, and it just flooded in with people who were so interested in receiving a curbside recycling collection. Then what we do is we release those people's addresses, so we'll check where you live, just to make sure that we're coming past on our collection route. We'll then send an activation email out. You create your account online. Of course, I'm available by phone call if anybody is unable to do that. But it all works through our system, so then that feeds in not only to me so that I can see what's going on in the business, but also all our amazing collectors so they know A, who signed up, and B, where they're going, and C, what has happened on the day. Do you know, oh, we've turned up, but sorry, we couldn't collect your boxes, they weren't there. Please refer to our website to see what can and can't be collected. It's like a feedback system, and so far it's been incredibly successful. So once you've signed up, we'll drop some boxes at your door. Once we've dropped them off, a little email say, hey, we've dropped some boxes at your door, and here is your collection. So they'll get an email reminder. You know, who hates it when you forget, oh, I forgot to put the bin out. You know, what we do to stop that is send a little email out the night before to say, don't forget to put your boxes out tomorrow. And that comes along every fortnight. So how do we work Recycle Collect? Obviously, there are different models for recycling collection, and bearing in mind we're a small island, I wanted to base Recycle Collect on a model that was suitable for a small island. So we use Ford Transit vans. When I'd started, I'd said to my husband, oh, they're using this kerbside, blah, 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 and this amount of money, £250,000. And he was like, no way. He was like, absolutely no way. We can do this from transit vans. We can have them modified inside. They're easy to drive. They can access so many properties. They can be serviced anywhere across the island, at any local garage. There's no specialist required here. And think of the amount that you can get for these. You know, you can get so many of them. They are such great value for money, and they have just been an absolute dream for us. So our collectors at the moment will turn up at your house in one of these brash branded vans. That was the point. They are super brash and super in your face, so you know who we are. And they will turn up, they will pick your boxes up, they will sort on curbside. So what they'll do is put back anything they can't take and take what they can. And that's almost like just a little bit to say, I'm sorry, we can't take it. You feel dead rude the first time you do it. You put it back in the box, it goes back at the door, and you're like, this is what can't be recycled. And then people start to learn. Eventually, you start to get, oh, I couldn't put that in there. It was worth a try, but I couldn't put that in there. And by doing that, we're kind of removing contamination at source. It is there, done at your doorstep, and we move on to the next household. So at the moment, the ladies are working on a test to finish basis, and they are what I would call the super collectors of the world. I don't think there are better curbside collectors in the world than my collectors. They are absolutely fantastic. Test to finish, they're just brilliant. You know, it's been an amazing model to push out, and I'm very lucky to work with some amazing people. So if you're a user of Recycle Collect, how does that look? So it looks a little bit like this, a little platform. You get your email reminder the night before, 5 p.m, to say put your boxes out. And then you can log on then to see your dashboard when your next collection dates are, and also what time to the second we've been at your household, what we've done if we've collected things. Here on this day, I got told to please rinse and flatten my cartons at, what time was that? 3:10 in the afternoon. So this little feedback system at the end of the day, you've had your collection. We see people all logging on to check the notes that they've been left, or what time you've been, if they've missed their collection. And it's just been such a successful way of kind of encouraging people to get kind of with a modern twist, to get their boxes out, get recycling. Here's how we do it. So for those of you, we are on social medias of those of you who use it. So Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and most recently TikTok, which was a new thing to me, but has been super fun. But we're just getting out there the information, trying to help people understand, well, what can be recycled and what goes in each box. So I, at the moment, am the silly fool who tends to be in these pictures, but I have this week managed to rope the girls in, so that's going to be great. I'll be out of everyone's face. We've got plastic and cans in our grey box. We put cartons and Tetra in our orange box. And we put glass, paper and cardboard in the green box. Now, the reason we separate these streams, they all have very separate disposal routes. If you mixed your glass with your plastic, what people don't realise, they look similar. So it really makes it difficult for your collectors. So we say plastic and cans go in one. They're separated mechanically at the other side. Glass and paper, really easy to spot glass amongst your paper. And then cartons and Tetra Pak go a very separate disposal route, so they all go in an orange box. And you can add these all online through your platform or through a phone call to myself if you want to get stuck on a phone call to me. Things that we have here that people tend to know about that we can collect. Your likes of bottles, people know about the bottles, trays, see-through plastics. What people hadn't really realised, when we collect, we ask specifically for people to make sure that their plastics are marked in accordance with these little triangles, a number 1, number 2, and a number 5. They are very small and they are very difficult. But what we've noticed and what we've came to realise is your likes of hand packets, soft plastics, unmarked wrappers, they do not have a great disposal route, and not through us, so we don't collect them. I've done my own personal research on the whole soft plastic recycling and the recycling of, they'll say recyclable on the packet, which they'll say return to store. Can be so difficult because you return it to store. Following my research on that, it's not something that I think Recycle Collect will participate in, so we just focus our attention on collection of items that we are confident have a great recyclability. Hand packets are mixed of really weird plastics to preserve the life of meat, which it was very interesting. Soft plastics, wrappers, things like that, we say no to. Pringles cans always go in your cardboard and paper, but obviously we don't collect that, so something to think about with what we're buying. And that's what it all comes down to. When you're popping these things in your boxes that you're buying, you start to adjust your buying habits based on what you see is going in your box and also what's getting returned to your box. And we want to kind of help people make it as easy as possible to know what can and can't. And as I said, everyone is super approachable, and we want to get that message off and just help people, give people the hand so that they know what they can and can't have in their boxes. The big question, where does it go? When I first started Recycle Collect, I'd heard every rumour under the sun about where our recycling goes. So it was great to actually find out and be involved in where our recycling does go. So your paper, if you have a look at these, all super close locations, some of them actually local. So paper's going to a mill in North Wales, it gets turned back into paper. Cardboard's going down to Lancashire, gets turned back into cardboard. Glass is staying locally on the Isle of Man, doesn't get turned back into glass, but it does get turned into building aggregate, and that stays here, St John's Peel Way. Plastic's going to Yorkshire, gets made back into more plastic, and aluminium goes to Cheshire. People like to think, oh yeah, aluminium gets turned into planes, and that's a cool selling point. It may get turned into planes. It's more likely it gets turned into more cans. So your Coke can will be another Coke can. And then last of all, other metals, so you know things like bean cans and things like that. Those are going, all your steel cans go to a local scrap merchant here on the Isle of Man. So taking that into consideration, actually most of our heavy materials stay here locally on the Isle of Man, and all these other materials, they're light, they're packaged super tightly for efficiency and shipped off only when efficient on our already scheduled sailings across to really close locations. So for Recycle Collect, when we started, our first round, I think, was like 50 houses. And oh my God, I can't believe how much we've changed since then. It has been absolutely what a ride it's been. But in our first year of collecting, we managed to collect 71 tons of recyclable materials. And that's from the start, 50 houses, right up to 720. And then up to 1,500 houses where we are today. So I'm excited for those statistics to come out at the end of the year. But this is something I like to share with everyone every month, through our social medias, is look at what we're collecting, look how much we're collecting, and think of the impact that we're having by removing these out of the waste stream. So up until now, so this is, our year end is a September, so we started in a September. And in the past 5 months, we've already collected 44.5 tons. It is crazy, and you know what's crazier? This was Christmas. So the girls were so busy over Christmas because of the amount of glass, which, by the way, I champion. So if people are like, oh, I didn't put that much glass out because I didn't want you to know how much I was drinking over Christmas, I don't mind. Get it out. It is absolutely, there is no judgment here. But it has been fantastic to see the take-up that we've had and the impact that we have had over Christmas. On average, what does that look like on a year per household? So if you take into consideration that we've only just started this journey, people learn as they go along, we are collecting about 160 kilograms of recyclable material per household, 86 kilograms of that being your glass. But as that starts to kind of grow, people start to learn more about what they can and can't recycle. At the moment, that's averaging between 180 to 190 kilograms, but I do see that continue to move up as we start to kind of know what can and can't be recycled. But hopefully, we then start to realize what we can do to reduce and reuse also. How do I get local authorities involved? I'm honestly here with open arms, and I'm so grateful to be working with 3 amazing local authorities this year. Last year, we've worked with Santon, Arbury and Rushen, which has had a fantastic result, which is why they are right up here at the top. And we want to engage with local authorities to say, listen, we are here to help you step up to this. Honestly, I am all cards on the table. Let's work together on this to start introducing this all across the parishes and really increase take-up and increase our recycling rate here on the Isle of Man. So this is my cool little competitive chart, Santon and Arbury right up at the top, and we release this data once every 3 months just to kind of show people and encourage people, if you come on board, the more people come on board, the better case I have when I go out to say, look how many people have signed up and who really want this service, and they're paying for it privately. please come on board to help make this easier for them. And I guess, where do we go from here? I can see all the girls twitching because I've put them on the screen. Yay! For me, Recycle Collect has a huge place in the Isle of Man when it comes to sustainability and also increasing our recycling rates. What I really want to do is I want to increase the whole of the Isle of Man's recycling rate. I want to get as many people as I can on board. And in order to do that, we're going to need to increase our fleet size. We're going to need 15 vehicles, 45 to 60 staff. And eventually, and well, sooner rather than later, I envisage Recycle Collect moving into electric vehicles, which was the original business model for this, if we can increase the range with, well, a large load in the back. And that's something we are starting to see and have discussions about. We could have our whole island's recycling collection done in electric vehicles, and we've just had this recent announcement about renewable energy. Like, the future is so, so bright for this. And I know my business is recycling, you know, and I want nothing more than to provide great jobs and just be this social enterprise. But the message is a lot bigger than that. The message is we need to start reducing and reusing before we even contemplate recycling. We need to really drive down our waste materials and stop buying things that we don't need to be buying. And I think, honestly, I think by using Recycle Collect, we can do that. We've already created a fantastic community through our engagement, and I want to use that to kind of drive this positive force, help people to, first of all, start recycling, and then second of all, what can we all do together to change our habits? And we'll start seeing it also with your likes of suppliers, changing the materials that they are using, and we want to be the ones to help drive that. So thank you very much. Lindsay will be popping around with any.
So we're now ready to take questions. So if you could just let me know, and then I'll give you the microphone. That's just so the people that are joining us online can also hear what you're asking. If you're online and have any questions, pop them into the chat, and we'll endeavour to ask as many as we can. So has anybody in the audience here got a question?
Hi, Clara.
Hi.
Loved your presentation there.
Thank you.
Just two questions, in fact. To do with the Douglas collections, you mentioned that your customers on average recycle 180 kilograms per month. Do you happen to know how much a Douglas customer who's paying for it within their rates, how much the weight of their annual collection is?
No, but they have just released that about 15% of their total waste in general now is through recycling. So there is a big drive, and as you can imagine, the weights per household will be relatively similar. It's the volume of people taking it up. Oh, it massively helps when we had local authorities come on board to help subsidise, even part subsidise. We've seen a massive take up in that area. Do you know, people are more likely to take part, definitely if local authorities are to come on board.
Excellent. And my other question, sorry if I may, do you happen to know, you seem like a really good businesswoman there, do you happen to know how much it costs the Douglas taxpayers per household for theirs? If yours costs £105 per year, how much do they pay?
The Douglas household payers, they have their own setup and processing facility, and they can also buy and sell on the market. So for them, it's probably better value. You know, they're generating a return from what they're selling, and they've got that whole process there, and also they'll have economies of scale. So no, I can't tell you exactly how much it costs them, but it will be significantly less, and that is the benefit of having volume, more people taking it up.
Thank you. So we've got Marcus online, and he's asking, do you plan to cover remote areas as well, with the island not being that big?
Yeah, I mean, in my head, I plan to touch every kind of part, with the exception of Douglas, who has a fully fledged setup. Yeah, I want to get to all areas. The sticking point for us is, as I've said, is volume and take up. You know, we will go to most areas if there's a string of people that makes it kind of not just economically viable, but also in terms of our emissions, we need to be careful that we're not creating more emissions than what we're collecting. But yeah, my plan is absolutely, I think every household should have curbside.
You mentioned something that can't be recycled, like soft plastics, and I'm also wondering about things like 3D printed plastics. Whereabouts is a good place to find out how these things can be recycled and if they can be recycled?
So there is a really ace guy down at Western Amenity site who knows about all sorts of things, more like, as you were saying, printed plastics and stuff like that. In terms of what can and can't be recycled for the general public, it is quite difficult, and there is a little link on the government website which will send you what goes in the bring banks. There's also stickers on the front of them. But yeah, honestly, I think what I'd recommend if you are struggling to find out, just give us a shout. You know, we've got connections now all over the island. You know, we're more than happy to help out people find and kind of disposal routes for their recyclables.
Okay, do we have any more questions in the room?
Is it more nerve-wracking because you're on a microphone?
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering, what is the difference in the actual composition of the material on a cereal box and a box around a cake or a packet of sweets? Because to me, they look identical. I've never understood why it's only cereal boxes that can be recycled.
Yeah, see, we don't say that. So, and I think if that's a bring bank situation, then we say any grey card. So there is no difference. There's absolutely no difference. We collect all grey cards of paper materials. And I think that's the problem with bring banks, or it's not a problem, I think they're great, you know, because people can bring their recycling somewhere. You have to be specific because you want to reduce the kind of risk of contamination. So if you start opening the doors a bit wider, it kind of runs the risk of people putting the wrong thing in. So I think people try to stay to basic rules so that people don't get it wrong. But yeah, using curbside, we do collect all sorts of grey card. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
I live in Ballaugh. I mean, do you come to Ballaugh? I've never seen your van.
Yes.
And what's the advantage? Because at the moment I have boxes in the garage which I throw bits into and then take once a month to the amenity site.
Yeah.
Is there an advantage to using you, apart from spreading the word?
Yeah, I think for some people it might be completely convenient, you know, if you're driving to work. The general premise is if there is one collection vehicle collecting volume, it saves several trips, which is obviously super beneficial. But if you're doing that journey, for example, some people do it to work. For me, curbside recycling was, you know, I was super busy, and I hate to sound like a busy fool, but I was super busy. So what I would do was have the best intentions of taking all my recycling down once a month, but I would end up filling my car boot up until it was jam-packed and I was forced to go. So the benefit is, I guess, the accessibility and convenience, and also the range of materials that we can collect. As an island-wide thing, I think it's reducing our footprint. Yes, we are in Ballaugh also.
Do we have any other questions in the room?
Just an awkward one, really.
Oh, I love
you
that.
mentioned that you can't take Pringles tubes.
Yes.
What about juice boxes? Because they also have the foil lining.
Yeah, so Pringles tubes, there was a big case in the US about Pringles tubes because they were saying, how can you be so unenvironmentally conscious when you're turning out all these tubes? And the problem with Pringles tubes is they've several materials, so not just the silver, they have something on the bottom, and if you've ever tried, you can't pull them off. Whereas for the likes of cartons, they're the one material which goes to one processing plant. But yeah, I have sent several emails to Pringles. They're not going to listen to me. But there are so many other people saying, use a different type of packaging, or even if you're not going to do it, look at all these other people around you who are. So it's a shame, really. Hopefully one for the future.
Now, it was a question, are you still okay with the foil line cartons?
All,
The answer is
yeah, all good. So Tetra Pak. So when we started collecting cartons, I think people thought it was just the Isle of Man creameries, but it's not. All type of cartons, all juice, orange juice, apple juice, alternative milks. Even, do you know, like soup and puree cartons, you can get them now in Tesco.
Soup carton?
Yeah, soup
No, you
cartons.
make soup. Why would you want a carton for soup? Come on.
But yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay, and one other thing, the co-op claimed that if you take it in, they will recycle things like crisp packets and soft plastics.
Yeah, and it's a
It
true
is.
claim. It's, you know, it's not false. It's completely correct. Yeah, they are taking that to be recycled. I've personally done my research on how I feel about that and what I found about recycling of soft plastics. The recyclability is minimal. So if you follow that trail through, where does it end up and what does it turn into? It's, you know, murky water in some instances. I'm sure Co-op, you know, they are super sustainably minded. They will do their absolute best with it. But in my eyes, I think we should be teaching people to reduce and reuse these materials because, you know, they'll turn up as something like a bench or a chair or, you know, something. We don't need more things. We need to start roping it back.
Do we need more benches and chairs? Sorry.
Have we got any more questions in the room?
Hi there. So that a lot of people don't have confidence in the waste that goes in the bring banks and at the service community sites that actually do go across the UK. I hear so many rumours of it going to the CETA plant because they haven't got enough. In your investigations, what have you found out to be true?
I was one of those believers back in the day. I was like, yeah, that's what they do. But when you actually take the time to research it, no, it's completely false. You know, the only time things like that can get misconstrued is, as I said, if you have a big bring bank and it's got a load of recyclable and everyone's done their best, putting their best recyclable material in, and then someone comes along, they lob a load of burgers and pizzas in there and a load of rubbish, that contaminates the whole thing then, and that's when they have no other option. In terms of, are they putting it into fuel the incinerator? Actually, no. The glass and cans are causing issues. It causes a significant drain on the system. They actually go in one end and come out the other significantly degraded, along with all the bottom ash. And it's actually affecting their ability or the efficiency of the electricity generation. So I've heard that before, and I've followed it through personally, and I know many of our other customers have done the same. It's not financially viable, and also, no, it's not. I think everyone is of the same opinion when it comes to recycling.
How do you get that message out to the public, though? Because I don't hear the government saying not what they do. I see messages saying the Isle of Man only recycles 5%, and that, you know, it's in line with Costa Rica for the ability of what we produce and recycle. I mean, I never hear the government saying this is what we've done.
I'll say it.
I mean, in our office, I say, right, this month I've recycled 101 plastic bottles, you know.
Yeah.
And they don't
Do
get the
everyone
message.
think you're the life and soul of the party? Because that's what I do. like, do you know, I know it might be difficult to communicate a message, and also, especially on your likes of social media platforms, you are subject to backlash. I think it's about getting them in front of people, and do you know what? If the message isn't getting across to people, give me a shout. You know, my voice can kind of spread to everyone, and I'm more than happy to help spread that message.
One final message. You've worked in the finance sector in the corporate world. How can you get that message out to corporates to get them to do recycling? Because I, for one, work in one, and they don't do it.
Yeah. So as kind of ESG targets come into corporates, it is huge now. Everyone wants to meet their ESG commitments. And I have been inundated with corporates and wanting to start recycling, educate about recycling, and it is happening right now across the Isle of Man. It's at the forefront of everyone's mind as step one. So what I'd suggest, definitely get your place to give me a shout. In partnership with the Prospero Group and Strand Cleaners, we are offering a commercial collection to commercials all across the island. So definitely, I think it all starts with the talk. Do you know, I have people call me saying, they can't get it right in the office, can you come and have a look? And it starts with the talk so that people know where, and it goes from there. Do you know, we need to ingrain it into our minds, because if we're just mindlessly disposing of things, you know, we're not considering what happens after that. Yeah.
And finally, being in the corporate world and that sort of thing, you ever thought about getting businesses to look at a salary sacrifice option, and for the Isle of Man tax division to say, we're part of a biosphere here, let's give them tax relief on it.
Yeah.
So that staff can then pay it out through their salary and get tax relief and such like, to make their costs less, but get you a bigger uptake.
Yeah, it's something that we've been discussing quite regularly with a lot of different corporates, and ultimately my kind of drive is, in order to get people to take it up, I want people to take it up so I have a greater argument to all other local authorities. If that works through corporates, they have been, honestly, I can't tell you the amount of amazing sponsors that I have had helping us to get this initiative off the ground. I wouldn't be here without them. And I think by them getting involved with us and saying, look and listen, it's helping us grow quicker, it's getting the word out. But salary sacrifice is something that we are discussing with a couple of people.
Okay, do we have any more questions in the room here? Okay, I have a question for you.
Of course you do.
I was just thinking, if everybody here tonight went home and they were to do one thing to start them on the journey, what would you say would be one way to start developing more of a sustainable lifestyle and starting to get more involved in recycling if it's not something you do already?
Yeah, I think, you know, for a lot of us, it's just having that mindset of splitting our waste stream. So it might be something as simple as maybe a couple of bags, just to get you started. So first of all, you see what you're putting in there. Do you know, when we come around to people, and I don't know whether you guys have kind of noticed when you're recycling, if you get to the end of the fortnight, you're like, did I really produce that much stuff? So what I'd really encourage is, in any way, shape or form, to get separating out your materials, just so you guys have kind of an understanding of what is kind of ending up in your waste stream. And then, do you know what, give me a shout. I literally say to anyone and everyone, reach out to me if you want a phone call, if you want to hit us up on all social medias, even meet us for a coffee, give me a shout and I'm more than happy to help.
Okay, so that brings us to a close. I just want to say thank you very much to Clara. I think she's given us all some food for thought tonight. So following the talk in the morning, if you signed up via Eventbrite, then you'll get through a little email from us just with a little feedback form for tonight. But it'll also contain some information about how you can contact Clara and her team if you want any more information. And for those of you in-house tonight, Clara will be hanging around after we close the talk here, so please do feel free to come and have a chat with her. So that all that's really left for me to say is thank you very much for taking your time to come and join us tonight. We hope you've enjoyed it and we wish you a safe journey home. Thank you.
Thank you.